Some have called shamanism the first religion. It is certainly one of the earliest spiritual practices known to humans. Many religions, especially their more esoteric aspects, still retain elements that can be recognized as shamanic practices. For example, Tibetan Buddhism, as practiced today, draws from the shamanic Bon religion. In this video, I aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of shamanism and answer questions such as, what is shamanism? What are the underlying principles of shamanism? How does one typically become a shaman? What are the functions of shamans? I will illustrate these points with examples from 3 different shamanic traditions in the world: the Kham-Magar tradition of Siberia, where shamans are called jhankri, the tradition in Bangladesh, where shamans are called ojha, faquir, and kabiraj, and the Hunzakat tradition in northern Pakistan, where shamans are called bitans. And all of this will be covered in 10 minutes or less. One of the central tenets of shamanism is animism, which is the worldview that all things, including plants, animals, and even rocks and natural phenomena, have their own spirits and consciousness. These spirits possess agency and intelligence and can either benefit or harm humans depending on the circumstances. Shamans are individuals within a community who can communicate with and influence the spiritual world, including the spirits of ancestors, plants, animals, and other supernatural beings. Due to their access to the spirit realm, shamans can help heal physical, mental, and spiritual issues, as well as provide guidance through divination and prophecy. A significant aspect of their work involves soul retrieval, as shamans believe that illness often stems from the loss of one's soul. This process entails journeying into the otherworld, retrieving the lost soul, and restoring it to the patient's body. Soul loss can occur due to various factors such as abduction by evil spirits or witches, traumas, or exposure to impurities. For example, in Bangladesh, they believe in ghosts known as but, individuals who have died from unnatural causes like accidents and suicides, as well as demons called jinn. These entities can enter a person through the head, mouth, and the appendages, with women being the most common targets. Sometimes, a sacrifice may be required to appease the evil spirits. In addition to shamanic journeying and incantations, shamans may also write charms or employ tools such as crystals and herbs. While shamanism is practiced in almost all indigenous and traditional societies worldwide, it has a particularly strong historical presence and ongoing practice in Siberia and Central Asia. The term shaman originates from the Tungusic word shaman, which means one who is excited, moved, raised. This refers to the active demonstration of trance that shamans enter to communicate with spirits. To induce an altered state of consciousness, shamans may use psychoactive plants, drumming, dancing, and chanting. The drum, in particular, holds great significance as it allows the shaman to summon spirits, enter a trance state, and embark on their journey into the underworld. How are shamans chosen? This is usually marked by distinct experiences. Firstly, there is a calling that marks the beginning of their shamanic journey. Secondly, a period of training and apprenticeship with existing shamans. Thirdly, a series of rites of passages that mark the development of the budding adept. Finally, a completion ceremony formally recognizes him as a shaman. The calling may take the form of a dream, vision, a near-death experience, a sudden and prolonged illness, epilepsy, or an unexpected state of trance or ecstasy. Usually, during the trance state, the recipient experiences features of a disembowelment of the body, followed by a reconstruction with new organs and bones, an ascent to meet gods, and a descent to meet subterranean spirits. An example from the Kham-Magar tradition of Siberia will be helpful to illustrate what the calling entails. In this tradition, the calling is almost always hereditary and is granted to a kinsman of a former shaman who has since deceased. The ancestral spirit called Jel will try to pick a successor from the deceased shaman's sons and grandsons. If there is no one suitable from those, they will then look at the shaman's brothers, before finally looking at the shaman's sister's sons. The Jel is looking for someone who has shown religious fidelity, meaning that this person, almost always a man, has routinely done animal sacrifices to local deities and ancestors. Ideally, the new person is chosen anywhere between 3 to 9 years after the previous shaman has passed on. Once the initial selection is done, the Jel would come to the person on an evening of a new or full moon. The selected candidate will begin to shake impulsively, slightly at first, but more severely over time. If the candidate is approved, the Jel will come again in the next new or full moon. This time, the candidate shakes harder than before, starts to babble incoherently, and may even become fully unconscious, sometimes staying in that state for 9 days, during which time he has dreams of being chased and attacked by wild beasts. These wild beasts in the dreams are the helping spirits of the Jel attempting to destroy the boy. Down the road, after proper initiation, these helping spirits will become sources of his power. The calling is often a harrowing time for both the candidate and his family. He can physically show symptoms of physical illness and mental lunacy. In traditions like the Kham-Magar, the calling is not obligatory. One must agree to be the shaman, or else these illnesses and episodes of insanity will continue indefinitely, if not to him, sometimes to other members of the family. In fact, I believe that many people in modern society who are considered mentally ill would have been seen as shamans in training in these more traditional societies. Once the candidate agrees to this vocation, the training phase begins. The training phase usually involves learning the specific techniques, practices, and rituals of their traditions. During this phase, they may start to develop a relationship with their spirit helpers, often animal spirits, ancestral spirits, or nature spirits. Again, an illustration, this time from the Hunzakat traditions, will be helpful. In this tradition, the source of their shaman's power lies in being a spokesperson for the Peri, mountain spirits said to inhabit the snowy peaks and alpine meadows of the Hunza valleys. The Peri can be downright malevolent by striking people down with altitude sickness, boulders, avalanches, and mud flows. They can injure livestock and blight the crops. They can also be fickle with their affections, they dislike women whom they regard as impure because of their menstrual period, and they hate cattle. The Peri favor goats because these animals resemble the ibex of the mountains. But the Peri can also bring good fortune, health, and prosperity if they are pleased. Since the Peri plays such a huge role in the well-being of the people, the bitans serves a critical function by being able to intercede for the people with them. One such bitan first noticed that he was getting more milk from his goats than his peers. The next day, while in search of mountain flowers, he saw the Peri, human-like, but taller than any man, wide-mouthed, with fair skin, red cheeks, golden hair, and clad in green garments, but their most distinguishing feature was that their feet were placed backward. After this initial meeting, the next time he was exposed to music, he had an unexplainable urge to dance and started prophesying about 3 gals being killed by a wall falling on them. This later turned out to be true. He was given a test to determine whether he was indeed to become a bitan. The bitans, after inhaling the smoke from the juniper, would fall into a trance and be willing to drink the blood from a goat's severed neck. Normally, this would turn off even the man with the strongest stomach, but when a bitan is in trance, this blood would taste like the best milk one has ever drunk. The reason is that it's the Peri drinking the goat's milk. After acceptance by the Peri, anywhere from 1 to 14 Peri are assigned to him as his guardian spirits. Besides helping him predict the future and telling him of events happening in distant places, he was taught incantations for healing the sick, ways to counteract harmful magic, and binding harmful spirits so they will cause no harm. In the Hunzakat tradition, unlike in other shamanic traditions, there were no other teachers other than the spirits. The third phase, passing initiations, can be illustrated with the Thumbu ritual in the Kham-Magar tradition. Thumbu is basically a gourd that hosts the helping spirits, almost like a genie in a bottle. This ritual is to summon the helping spirits and encase them into the thumbu. Though the shaman can call on other gods and deities, he mainly relies on helping spirits in the gel, which number 9 in total: wild boar, leopard, bear, monkey, serpent, llama, lada, dumb spirit, and an obscure spirit called Zayafi. When a shaman is possessed by the helping spirits, he can shape-shift and take on the characteristics of those spirits. For example, he may climb like a monkey, roar like a leopard, or slither on the ground like a snake. More impressively, the Lama spirit can cause him to speak in the Tibetan language even though he never learned it. To pass this ritual, one test involved finding the clothes of the previous shaman, which were buried at a secret spot upon his death. If the shaman had successfully called upon the helping spirits, they would help him locate it easily. In the final phase of completion, 6 months after the Thumbu ceremony, there is the Bosinaya ceremony, where there is official recognition of the gel's rebirth and commissioning of the new shaman. Unlike the Thumbu ceremony, in which he cannot wear his predecessor's shamanic costume, he proudly wears it in this ceremony, showing that he is now a fully fledged shaman. This shamanic costume is filled with feathers, symbolizing the bird soaring into the spiritual world, and is encircled by iron pendants that act as armor against evil spirits. In this ceremony, the shaman also climbs a symbolic world tree that connects to the other world and rides their drums like horses into the sky. In our modern society, shamanism may seem like a superstitious product of a bygone age, but in societies where shamans still work, they have been known to cure illnesses of people whom hospitals have given up on. For example, a man was brought to a shaman, complaining of persistent leg pain that did not go away even after repeated visits to the hospital. The shaman sought consultation with his spirit guides and declared the reason for this pain. Apparently, the patient was out in the forests while woodlands fairies were out hunting, and an arrow from the fairies accidentally hit his leg and was still energetically lodged in it. After seeing the shaman, the pain went away. I don't know which is more incredible, the fact that the pain went away or the story about hunting woodlands fairies. Anyway, if you have had any experiences with shamans previously, please feel free to comment on your experience.